Bernie Sanders has announced a new wealth tax proposal, and I'm going to break it down. But first, a history lesson. So, back in 2017, Bernie Sanders also proposed a wealth tax. So, at the time, BuzzFeed News reported on it, saying, with popular single-payer plan, Bernie Sanders enters new territory, a wealth tax. As Democrats embrace Bernie Sanders and his Medicare for All proposal, he is also publicly detailing a tax policy that few American politicians have embraced before. And as they also reported in that piece, Sanders floated the idea as early as 1997 in his book Outsider in the House, where he declared it high time to establish a tax on wealth similar to those that exist in most European countries. And for years, Bernie Sanders was alone in his support of a wealth tax. Even though she supports it now, Elizabeth Warren dodged the idea of a wealth tax up until this year. As BuzzFeed News reports, when questioned about the idea in a 2014 interview, Senator Elizabeth Warren, the biggest star in progressive politics at the time, didn't engage. Quote, "We need to take a hard look overall at our approach to taxation," she replied. Yet, despite all that history, here's how the Washington Post announced Bernie's revised wealth tax proposal. In this tweet saying, Sanders, taking a page from Warren, proposes sweeping wealth tax. Taking a page from Warren. Even though Bernie Sanders supported a wealth tax in 1997, had a plan for it in 2017, Elizabeth Warren didn't have a wealth tax plan until this year. Somehow Bernie Sanders is taking a page from Elizabeth Warren by announcing his revised wealth tax plan. I mean, according to the Washington Post fact checker, that would be 4 Pinocchios for a blatantly false statement. The mass media refuses to give Bernie Sanders credit for pretty much anything and recognize why they are doing this. The Washington Post is indirectly telling you here who the real threat to their established wealth and power is. You'll see it again and again and again. Elizabeth Warren gets a big crowd somewhere. Oh, the amazing coverage. Oh, Elizabeth Warren bringing these big crowds. Bernie Sanders brings in 20,000 people or brings in 4,000 people in Elizabeth Warren's hometown. Crickets. No one talks about it. Elizabeth Warren releases a wealth tax plan. Oh, brilliant. Warren here again with another brilliant plan. Sanders releases a revised version of his own wealth tax plan. Oh, taking a page from Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders releases his plan. It's totally dishonest, and they're doing it because they understand that Bernie is the real threat to the establishment. And look, I'm not saying this to go after Elizabeth Warren. I think her plans are solid, but they're not Bernie's plans. Bernie was there first, and he has the stronger plans. Those are the facts. So recognize why the media is going after Bernie and not going after Warren. They see that Warren is someone that they can massage into their own positions. They know that Bernie Sanders will not be moved. Now let's go into the details of Bernie's wealth tax plan. So Warren's wealth tax, by comparison, puts a 2% annual tax on net worth above $50 million. Bernie's goes much further. So this from Splinter News. Major elements of Bernie's wealth tax include an annual 1% tax on household net worth over $32 million, the top 1/10% of Americans. The tax rate would increase to 2% on net worth from $50 million to $250 million, 3% from $250 to $500, 4% from $500 to $1 billion, 5% from $1 billion to $2.5 billion, 6% from $2.5 billion to $5 billion, 7% from $5 billion to $10 billion, and 8% on wealth over $10 billion. And it also includes stricter reporting laws and increased IRS funding and audits to make tax evasion more difficult, and a 40% to 60% exit tax on people trying to move wealth overseas to escape the wealth tax. So it's comprehensive. But Bernie Sanders puts it in more eloquent terms with this tweet. Billionaires should not exist. There you go. He is the only candidate saying this. Here are some more details on Bernie's plan from Vox and exactly how it does more than Warren's plan. The proposal would cut the wealth of billionaires in the United States in half in 15 years and entirely close the gap in wealth growth between billionaires and the average American family, according to the University of California, Berkeley economists Gabriel Zuckman and Emmanuel Saez. Hitting the richest 180,000 American households, Saez and Zuckman estimate the tax would raise $4.35 trillion over the next decade, which Sanders says would go toward paying for his biggest policies, including Medicare for all, affordable housing, and universal childcare. With more brackets for individuals and families, Sanders' proposal is estimated to raise $1.6 trillion more in revenue than Warren's plan over 10 years, whereas Warren's plan has the same thresholds for individuals and married couples, which could enable some wealthy couples to evade the tax by getting divorced. Sanders' plan closes that loophole. So it's clear. Bernie's wealth tax is more comprehensive than Elizabeth Warren. This is exactly what we should be doing in a primary, comparing these candidates. Now, obviously, Warren does a lot more than Joe Biden or any other candidate, but when it comes to looking at the top three candidates here, Joe Biden, well, forget about it, but then you have Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Bernie's plan is better. That's just a fact. Now, since it's kind of hard to imagine the real world impact of this is how much these billionaires would owe under this plan. So this is from Bernie advisor Warren Gunnels. Under Bernie's plan, this is how much more these billionaires would owe this year. The Walton family, $14.8 billion. Jeff Bezos, $8.9 billion. Charles Koch, $3.2 billion. Sheldon Adelson, $2.6 billion. And Rupert Murdoch, $1.28 billion. So if you're serious about upending the system to finally represent the vast majority of people over the few at the top, there's only one candidate in this race that deserves your attention, and that's Bernie Sanders.